So then, good morning.
Morning.
Frank.
Lars.
And today we want to talk about FlixOS, from where it started and what it is right now. And for the start, Frank will give you an introduction.
Okay, so before I start, perhaps very briefly, getting an idea. So to which extent do you have an idea about FlixOS? I guess everybody has heard about it. So who has heard about FlixOS? Who has, or other way around, who has never heard about FlixOS? Okay. Who thinks, who knows what FlixOS is, roughly? Okay, then it makes sense that we give the talk. Yeah, it's indeed a bit fuzzy, and okay, therefore starting with the history. So, so for the oldest of you who are longer in the company know, there was once this monolith in FlixTech, long time ago, and then we had the idea. We overcome monolithic structures, monolithic organizational structures, monolithic systems. We do this huge team reshuffling, have this big bang. Everybody's working on their own services components. And the big problem was, okay, so how do we get it started? And back then, for those who were really, so who was here last year in about May 2017, the company? Who was not here? Easier? Okay, roughly half, perhaps. So, but you probably have heard about it. So we had this reshuffling phase, and we had Flix Ignition, an incubation phase where teams found their new team structures, and we had various work streams to build organizational structures, with the idea that after that, we built a new foundation on which everybody can then start to work on. Of course, the idea was not, as indicated here, that everything is perfect after some weeks, but we at least wanted to make a huge step into this direction. And as I said, lots of organizational work streams, HR coaches, product owner roadmaps, and so on. And there were also various technical work streams. Most important, some teams started out splitting off from the monolith. And on the other side, there were two work streams where we wanted to establish basic new infrastructure, basic DevOps tooling, DevOps processes, and also established the event bus as a means of coupling between the teams in this then now distributed system. So, and I was product owner of the data platform team before, and we were already largely working on AWS, and we were working on Kafka, mostly internally as an event bus. So, therefore, I was asked whether I could lead these two work streams. And, I mean, the idea was really interesting and ambitious to do something meaningful, have like a big hacker day, 4 to 6 weeks, build something meaningful. But on the other side, there was also the fear, what can you really do in 6 weeks? I mean, particularly you cannot support directly these SCS teams while building the infrastructure. So we, and there is also the big danger that you work rather in a project structure, and after 6 weeks, all of that is just dumped and completely worthless. So we wanted to avoid that, and the idea was to start from the beginning on building a product, knowing that after 6 weeks we won't have a product, we probably even won't have a real MVP, but we at least want to build the foundations to build a product which is then there for a longer time, and which is really worth the effort and is sustainable. So the core idea was, we had already an AWS account where some teams were already working, some teams already partially in production, but it was already developing into some kind of an infrastructure monolith. Lots of permissions for everybody, every team's there, no conventions. And so the main idea was using this new concept of AWS organizations and building these new federated structures also in AWS. So every team getting their own accounts and building a structure above AWS to manage this. In principle, also with the idea that it supports other infrastructures, other platforms like the bare metal data centers in Berlin and Nuremberg, and potentially also other cloud providers. And the other focus was The cloud platform team back then, small team, was already working on Kubernetes. And the idea was to really make sure we can use that for all teams from there on, because there was various rumors that this is not sustainable, it's not stable, and Kubernetes is not the right path. Yeah, as I said, we want to establish Kafka as well, or open it for others. Infrastructure automation, basic tooling around that, and for various things was clear from the beginning we can build huge infrastructure, but would at least like to establish blueprints, communities, to continue work on that. Yeah, okay. This slide. So the most important thing I said was product orientation from the beginning. But the other thing was also we want to go for team autonomy, so we wanted to build something which is an option, but is not enforced on teams. So it's unobtrusive. Teams can use completely AWS as they want, but we want to build convenience on top, and by that building collaboration and enforcement by convenience. I would say that this is still valid until today, and for that also facilitating team autonomy. Strong goal was to automate everything. So there was already a lot of automation also around Kubernetes, but there were also gaps. So that was also one goal, to identify all the points where manual things, where we had manual things. Yeah, and we want to bring closer these two worlds. So we started with the data platform. This was a bit a separate world, and there was the monolith teams, and there were also some new data science teams. And people were not, was no hostile environment, but people were also not talking and not exchanging their mutual approaches. And that was also an important aspect. And we were striving for real DevOps culture, meaning not a central team is building some infrastructure alone, but all people around who have knowledge with AWS, infrastructure automation, CI/CD, exchange the ideas, and we together build the tools we use for development. Yeah. So there were lots of topics, and I don't go through them. So we identified all of the things we would probably need to build a full infrastructure, knowing that we cannot build that in 4 to 6 weeks. So we identified the most important ones and split up into smaller subgroups. There were at the beginning roughly 25 people involved. I would say at the beginning it was perhaps, I don't know, 8 to 10. We were really working hardcore at some topics. And we step by step identify the most important things. So as I said already, AWS organization was the most important outcome, the automation around that. There was a big discussion about Kubernetes, which is perhaps these days not that clear anymore. So at this point, there were really a lot of people saying Kubernetes won't work out. And even if we didn't do a lot about Kubernetes in this phase, there was really deep checks about the setups. There were community meetings, people showing what they like about Kubernetes, what are the problems are, and in the end it turned out there are 2 special problems, technical problems, which can be specifically solved, and the platform team around Steffen, working back then on that, also just continued their work basically in this phase, and we had a general agreement that we all want to continue with Kubernetes. Yeah, so infrastructure tooling, we agreed on CloudFormation and Ansible as a standard tooling for the company. It has slightly changed meanwhile, but still around both. And yeah, personally, I really like particularly the CI/CD workshop. So there was not too much tooling established around CI/CD, but so unfortunately since then, this hasn't happened that lot again, so this community. But this community talks, I mean, everybody who was there involved was really, excited about it, and there are also some outcomes like blueprints, particularly from Basti, to use CI/CD with the standard tooling we use here, like GitLab CI and Kubernetes. Yeah, and also in this phase, we established the MVP of Kafka as a service. We extended the focus from only open source Kafka to using Confluent platform and the licensing with Confluent and the enterprise support, to make this really a mission-critical service then, which can be offered internally to all teams. Problem was, at the end, we succeeded, which is a good thing, at least with a certain core, and people started to use FlixOS, started to use the FlixOS accounts, but all of the people involved were away from their teams, and then the question was, okay, we have to go urgently back to our teams. There was a lot of documentation missing, and it was really unclear who to continue. I mean, people were really interested to continue that, But there was also the bias which, with the teams. So it was clear it needs dedicated ownership. It needs also somebody with dedicated experience there. There were experts around, but somebody who's really deep experience and background there. And we need also more experts working at the core of that and ensuring we can really develop that into a high quality product. And luckily, at this point, I can hand over because Lars was engaged and I think perfectly fulfilled this role and continued until today.
Yeah, so I mean, it started as a project and now we have a product. So what is actually the vision for the product? So we want to make sure that the product teams can focus on their product delivery and not the infrastructure tooling around it. So we really want to make sure within FlixOS we deliver the tooling and the services you all need to focus on your product delivery. So what does it mean? Cloud and data platform teams are currently like maintaining the core parts of FlixOS, mainly like the AWS Bootstrap, the Kubernetes part, the bus part, but you're happily invited to contribute. So when you have some things which are currently not there, let's align. Either we can put them on our roadmap or, if possible, you have the time, build it and we can like integrate it easily. Yeah, so that's like my question to you, like, hey, come on, let's do it together. So where are we at the moment? So you see here, like, ideally you have your product domain and you don't care about the big black box around it, which is actually FlixOS, because everything is there, everything is provided. But if you want to know how it looks like, I will give you now a brief overview of what we currently have. Yeah? So we have here the FlixOS core, yeah, where we have the AWS accounts. We have the compute part with Kubernetes. We have here like the streaming part where we talked about bus. And we might have like other platform services which are currently not there. Can be, for example, security services which you need, or some analytics tools which are just not there yet. And to go a little bit deeper, what is there? Yeah? AWS FlixOS core. You will get automatically by just some change in configuration, you will get AWS account, you will get networking out of the box. If you need, you can get your GitLab runners so that you can do team-specific things. There's also a big GitLab runner pool, which has been recently invented. And you also get like your DNS domains. So with the core part, you could already start building your product, but that's not all because you would still have to do a lot of more things on your own. That's why we also have Kubernetes on top of it. So with Kubernetes, I mean, I'm not calling out now all the features for Kubernetes, but probably some things we put on top of it is like you can get access control to your services. So like some single sign-on functionality with OIDC. There's automatic log shipping to Graylog, so you get your application logs moved to Graylog and you can analyze them there. And there's also like support for custom domain names, SSL certificates. So all the things you might need, but you probably don't want to focus on because it's just convenient that you can use them. There's also this the whole data part, yeah, with FlixOS Bus, yeah, where you have the messages and events. It's in the backend powered with some S3 data lake. There is Redshift, so again, like data you can use. And we also have like tooling already, yeah, which when you want to automate your own stuff, you can already start using Terraform with a couple of snippets and examples which are nicely integrated with Kubernetes, with FlixOS. So you might need a database. Well, you can use some snippets to bring it up easily and it's fully integrated. You work with New Relic. Well, we have also now the cluster metrics available in New Relic so that you can cross-correlate. I have an application issue. Is it actually the infrastructure or is it my application? So that's also there. And to make it easy for you, because we use the single sign-on via Azure Active Directory, we have the AWS login script, which makes it possible for you, well, to log in on the command line, yeah, to have like just temporary credentials, and that we don't have to mess around with static tokens anymore, because, well, they get lost over time, they get old over time, they are shared anywhere, and it's also a security issue. Yeah, and that's actually the current state. Thank you for the attention, and you might have questions, so we reserved some time for questions. Thanks.